Dodgers fans, buckle up, because the next few seasons around Major League Baseball are shaping up to look completely different. And one of the biggest pieces in that puzzle is the automated ball strike challenge system that is scheduled to take over the league starting in the year 2026. It is wild to think how fast the sport has changed recently. We barely finished adjusting to the pitch clock, and now here comes another wave of tech rewriting how players react in the batter's box and how pitchers try to steal a strike on the edges. And the one player who has been pretty honest about all of this is Dodgers catcher Will Smith, who opened up about how strange it feels knowing that the way umpires call the zone might never be the same again. Because even though the home plate umpire is still going to make the initial call, the new system uses those Hawkeye cameras locked onto every pitch, reading the exact position of the ball in relation to a personalized zone that changes depending on the hitter's height. So now, whether it is a borderline fastball or a sweeping slider that nicks the very bottom of the zone, the tech sees everything and players on either side of the ball can challenge the call. They only get a couple of seconds to do it, and it has to come directly from the batter, catcher, or pitcher. No hints, no signals from the dugout, no glances to a coach telling you what to do. And here is where Will Smith's point really hits. He said he has mixed feelings because, yes, players want the right call every single time. No one wants to lose a plate appearance because the umpire expanded the zone by a few inches, and pitchers definitely do not want a perfect spot to be taken away because it was ruled just a bit too low. But at the same time, baseball always had that human element that made the sport unpredictable. You get a bad call, you shake it off. You get a lucky break, you take it and move on. It is part of the story of every game, and for years that is what players grew up learning. So now, he worries not only about how it affects the big leagues, but also what it teaches the next generation watching at home, kids who will see major leaguers challenging strike calls while they still have to deal with regular umpires behind the plate. And honestly, it is hard not to agree with that angle. Just like the pitch clock had everyone complaining at first, and then quickly became normal, the challenge system is probably going to follow that same path. The league tested it during spring training and then again during the 2025 All-Star Game, and you could tell a lot of players walked away thinking, you know what, this is not so bad. But there is still that adjustment period, especially for veterans who have played their whole careers trusting the umpire and not a camera system that measures the zone based on percentages of a player's height. And speaking of the zone, the league actually built it using a rectangle set halfway back on home plate, lining up the top and bottom based on calculations that run from about 27% to just over 53% of a hitter's height. Basically, from the letters on the jersey down to the knees. While all that tech talk is happening, the Dodgers themselves are going through a completely different type of milestone. Dave Roberts just hit the 10-year mark managing the team, which is crazy when you remember how much turnover the organization had before he took the job. From the late 1990s up through the mid-2010s, it felt like the team was constantly shuffling managers, trying to find someone who could handle the pressure, handle the expectations, and figure out how to keep the clubhouse steady. Roberts came in back in November of 2015 and immediately became the heartbeat of a franchise that wanted consistency more than anything. And what a run it has been. A winning percentage above .600, multiple postseason journeys, several National League West titles, and trips to the World Series that helped shape a whole new era of Dodgers baseball. And now that he has been here for a full decade, the conversation around him has shifted from whether he should keep the job to whether he has already secured a place in Dodgers history forever. When you lead a team to championship after championship and maintain one of the best winning percentages any manager has ever had, that is not luck. That is not a fluke season. That is sustained excellence, and the numbers back it up. Even with fans who love to nitpick every single decision he makes, there is no denying the impact. But the Dodgers still have real issues to solve, especially in the outfield. Last season proved that the team cannot go through another playoff run with the same defensive struggles. They need more than power at the plate. They need reliable coverage in center and more balance across the corners. There is chatter about Cody Bellinger, and you can imagine how wild the crowd would go if he ever returned. His numbers in New York were strong, showing that he still has plenty of production left. But even then, the Dodgers front office is looking at the long-term picture, not just nostalgia. And that is why so many eyes are on Kyle Tucker. He is the type of outfielder who checks every single box. Elite hitting, elite fielding, playoff mentality, and still young enough to invest in for more than a decade. The price tag being tossed around is massive, stretching into the hundreds of millions, but you get what you pay for when you bring in someone who can anchor your outfield for years. The Dodgers have massive contracts already on the books, but they are also in a championship window that will not stay open forever. Adding an outfielder who can produce consistently while covering real defensive ground might be the missing piece to keep the team chasing titles instead of relying on patches and half solutions. Teoscar Hernandez brought plenty of offense, but the defensive concerns showed up at the worst possible time. Andy Page's flash potential, but still needs consistency. Michael Conforto struggled in almost every area and could not maintain the level needed for a deep roster. The depth pieces might return, and guys like Enrique Hernandez can still contribute, but those are supporting roles, not everyday anchors. The Dodgers know this, and that is why the Tucker discussions will not go away anytime soon. And when you look around the league, the competition is going to be fierce. Teams that need outfield help are circling, and every front office in the mix knows exactly how valuable Tucker's skill set is. He is not just a bat. He is not just a glove. He is a player who changes the way a lineup breathes and a defense moves. And when you think about how the Dodgers operate, you know they're not the type of organization that hesitates when they see a chance to elevate the roster. They analyze every angle, every long-term effect, every financial ripple that comes with signing a player to a contract that stretches more than 10 years into the future. But they also understand the value of securing a superstar before he enters his prime years. That is the kind of move that can stabilize a lineup and reshape the identity of a team heading into a new era of baseball, where offense, defense, speed, and adaptability all carry equal weight. It is not just about plugging holes anymore. It is about building a roster that can compete not only in the regular season, but also through the emotional grind of October baseball. And that is where someone like Tucker fits in perfectly. His ability to influence a game from both sides of the ball is exactly what the Dodgers have been missing since their outfield core became inconsistent and unpredictable. A player who changes the momentum with one swing, one diving catch, one clutch moment that shifts the tone of a game. That is the type of presence championship teams depend on. But while the Dodgers explore that possibility, they're also keeping close watch on their younger players who showed flashes of potential but still struggled when the pressure mounted. Pages, for example, had moments where he looked like he could develop into a long-term centerpiece. His defense was solid, his reads were sharp, and he had stretches where his swing produced real damage. The problem was the cold streak that hit at the worst possible time, the kind of slump that magnifies how thin the team's options were beyond the starting lineup. And that is a lesson the Dodgers cannot afford to ignore. Depth has always been one of the organization's biggest strengths, but last season revealed how quickly that depth can fade when injuries and inconsistencies collide. They had games where the outfield looked slow, disconnected, and a step behind the rhythm of elite playoff baseball. That is why the search for another everyday outfielder feels less like a luxury and more like a necessity. They cannot depend on streaky production or players who need constant adjustments just to stay afloat. They need someone who can anchor the position every day, no questions asked. Meanwhile, the conversation around players like Michael Conforto makes it clear how quickly things can shift. Expectations were high. The contract reflected confidence, but the performance never matched what the team needed from him. His mobility was limited, his presence at the plate faded, and by the time the season reached its critical moments, it felt like the Dodgers were playing with one fewer reliable bat than they had planned. That is the kind of setback a contender cannot repeat, especially when the rest of the league keeps getting younger, faster, and more aggressive. And then you have the utility players, the guys who fill roles in 162 games but cannot be expected to carry a full-time spotlight. Enrique Hernandez has always been one of those spark plugs who can slide into the outfield and create instant energy. He is reliable, versatile, and trusted in the clubhouse. Miguel Rojas brings steady defense and leadership, but his athletic ceiling limits how much outfield responsibility he can take on. These are important pieces, but not the type that can anchor a postseason run. The Dodgers know this, and that is why they are looking at the bigger picture instead of depending on patchwork solutions. As all this unfolds, there is another layer to the Dodgers' story that cannot be ignored: their pitching staff. Because as much as the outfield conversation has dominated the offseason, the team's pitching strategy has to line up with the rest of the roster. Adding an elite outfielder becomes even more valuable when you remember how much pressure the pitchers faced last season when defensive coverage was uneven. Every fly ball became a gamble. Every line drive into the gap forced pitchers to work harder, throw deeper in accounts, and adjust strategies on the fly. Improving the outfield does not just boost the offense, it directly protects the pitching staff. And speaking of adjustments, the upcoming introduction of the ABS challenge system is going to transform how pitchers game plan for opponents. Some pitchers love painting the edges and forcing hitters to chase. Others rely on umpire tendencies, knowing which parts of the zone they can steal. But once the new system is in full effect, those tendencies become less predictable. Pitchers will have to trust pure command instead of reading the umpire's rhythm. Catchers will need to be faster with decisions, knowing they only have a couple of seconds to challenge. Hitters will have to rethink how they handle borderline pitches, because now their reaction time affects more than just the swing, it affects the verdict on the pitch. And while Will Smith has already voiced how complicated this change feels, he is not the only one thinking about the downstream impact. Pitchers who rely on framing might lose a subtle advantage they have spent years perfecting. Hitters who learned how to expand or shrink the zone with their stance might have to rethink their approach entirely. The psychological game between hitter and pitcher tightens significantly because the buffer of human interpretation shrinks. One clean strike becomes a clean strike. One missed corner becomes an instant challenge. And in high-pressure playoff moments, every inch of the strike zone matters. The more you think about it, the more you realize how deeply intertwined everything is for the Dodgers right now. They are balancing technological changes in the sport, long-term financial commitments, aging stars, rising young talent, and the constant expectation of making the World Series every single year. Maintaining that standard is not easy. It takes players who can absorb pressure, adapt quickly, and perform at a consistently high level no matter how much noise surrounds the team. Which is why the front office is examining every scenario. They know bringing in a superstar outfielder might be the difference between fighting for a three-peat or falling just short. They know the pitching staff needs stability behind them. They know the lineup needs more balance, not just sluggers, but hitters who can produce in different ways. And they know the defense cannot afford another year of last-second adjustments and shaky reads in the outfield. All of that builds toward an off-season that feels bigger than usual. The stakes are higher, the expectations heavier, and the margin for error smaller. The Dodgers have the resources, the talent, and the vision, but now they need the final pieces that can push the roster from great to unstoppable. And with the league evolving faster than ever, finding those pieces becomes even more urgent. But before we move forward, don't forget to join our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest news about the Los Angeles Dodgers. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the news, so drop a comment below. In what could be the most jaw-dropping move of the season, whispers around Major League Baseball suggest that Juan Soto, one of the most electrifying hitters in the game today, may have officially signed with the Los Angeles Dodgers in a deal that is reportedly being described as trillion-dollar by insiders, an eye-popping figure that seems almost impossible to comprehend. The rumor has sent shockwaves through baseball circles, with fans, analysts, and even rival front offices scrambling to process the potential implications of such a seismic acquisition. Sources close to the matter claim that the Dodgers front office has been quietly negotiating behind the scenes for months, determined to land Soto in a move that could redefine the team's offensive identity for years to come. While official statements remain elusive, the murmurs are persistent. Soto, known for his uncanny plate discipline, elite power, and the kind of on-field presence that shifts momentum with a single swing, is allegedly on the verge of joining a roster that already boasts a formidable lineup. The sheer magnitude of this purported contract has fueled endless speculation, with fans debating how the Dodgers could possibly accommodate the financial ramifications while maintaining flexibility for the future. Social media has erupted, with every corner of the baseball community dissecting what a Soto-Dodgers partnership might look like. Analysts are already running hypothetical scenarios, projecting how he would fit into the batting order, which pitchers he might face most often, and what kind of clubhouse dynamic could emerge with a player of his caliber. Meanwhile, chatter among insiders hints that the signing, if confirmed, could trigger a cascade of moves across the league, with other teams scrambling to shore up their lineups in response to the Dodgers' unprecedented spending spree. Even the skeptics admit that Soto joining Los Angeles would be a game-changer, not just for the team, but for the league at large. The idea of one of baseball's brightest stars landing on the West Coast powerhouse has generated a mix of excitement, envy, and disbelief. While MLB has yet to release any official confirmation, the buzz is undeniable, and fans are bracing for what could be the most sensational headline of the season. Whether this story is reality or simply an elaborate rumor remains to be seen, but one thing is certain. The mere suggestion of Juan Soto in a Dodgers uniform has ignited a firestorm of speculation that shows no signs of cooling anytime soon. That's all for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay up to date with exclusive news about the Los Angeles Dodgers, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We always appreciate your comments and feedback. See you in the next video.